Bill Ellenbogen is first, Sally Peterson will go second, Jim Kirk will go third, then Ron Diedick, Gary Druby, and May Kleiman. Are there any questions? All right, Bill?
I promised somebody I wouldn't do a Fidel Castro and speak for 3 hours. I'm Bill Ellenbogen. I've been a member of Imperial for about 6 years. I'm originally from a small town in New York. I relocated to Blacksburg, Virginia when I went to college and went to Virginia Tech. I've had a home there ever since, and that was about 44 years ago. I graduated from Virginia Tech with a bachelor's degree in education. I went off and played pro football for a few years, and went on, and while I was playing pro football, I worked on a master's degree. I would go back each year and work on a master's degree. When I got done, I had developed an interest in the restaurant business, so I opened a restaurant after a couple of years kind of trying to find myself after pro football. I was in the restaurant business from 1982 to 2004. I opened a second restaurant a year after I opened the first. Both restaurants were successful. They were in a college town. They dealt with seasonality, which is an issue that we deal with a little bit here. At the end of the, after having a second restaurant, I sold that to my partner, my half to my partner, because having two wasn't twice as much fun as having one. And I kept the first restaurant that had opened, and then after about 22 years, I gave it to my employees. I'd had 5 employees that had been with me for over 20 years. And I had an opportunity to sell it, but some of them were going to get fired, so I gave it to my employees instead. That worked out pretty well for them for about 5 years, and it kind of ran downhill, and they closed it. During the course of the time I had the restaurant, I met my wife Janet. We have 2 wonderful children, a son Matt and a daughter Courtney. And about 7 years ago, we found out about Naples. We had some friends invite us down, and we came down here, and it's hard, as you all know, it's hard not to love Naples. What's wrong when you're up in Virginia in the freezing cold weather and you come down here and get to play golf in the sun? It's pretty nice. We feel very lucky that we found Imperial, my wife and I do. It's a great club, nice people, 2 great golf courses. There's nothing, it's just a wonderful place to be, and we feel very privileged. It's reasonably, it's done at a reasonable cost, it's well run, it's very conservatively managed. I think the role on the board that I would hope that I could fulfill is to continue that history of conservative management. A friend mentioned to me that I should try and get on the board, and I said, oh, this is great, I have all these other guys I know that are on boards, and you get these big bucks, and I said, this could work out real well. Then I found out not only don't I get paid, but I also have to be elected. I said, this is so good. I'm not sure this is exactly what I had in mind, but I took a class in economics once, a long time ago, and I was told that it was the science of making man's unlimited desires match his limited resources. And I think when you look at one of the big challenges we have here at the club, it's our food service. I think it's true in clubs across the country that food service is a difficult problem for clubs to deal with, and they generally operate a loss, which we do here as well. I think the challenge is to decide what level of loss we're comfortable with, what level of service we hope to provide, what level of food, and how we're going to handle in dealing with the almost certain notion that we are going to lose some money. There are no magic formulas, and having a little bit of restaurant experience doesn't qualify me to come in and try and run the place. As a matter of fact, the last thing in the world, having been in the restaurant business, is to go back and run it. I hope that perhaps I could take a look at some of the maybe the books or some of the policies and procedures and give some advice to the professionals who are going to be running the show. I also have experience, during the course of the time I was in the restaurant business, I got into the real estate business. I have extensive experience for 35 years in developing property and managing property. We also have a real estate business here at Imperial. We have a very large tract of land that we have to deal with in facilities, and I would like to think that I have the ability also to look at the issues that come with management of property and perhaps lend some expertise and advice. Running any business is similar to looking at a crystal ball, and being on a board is the same way. The problem is the crystal ball is very murky, and you look through the clouds and you try and anticipate what problems and issues may come up looking through that, and you hope to get the best picture you can get, guess what the problems are going to be going forward, and make the best decisions possible. I hope that you will allow me to serve on the board, and perhaps I'll be able to see through the haze and give some good guidance and try and lend whatever service I can to the club. Thank you very much. And my last thing, I'm instructed to introduce Sally Peterson.
That's good. 6 years. That's good.
Why am I running? I feel a need to give back to this place that has brought us a tremendous amount of pleasure. We joined in 2006, and we haven't looked back. I can't imagine being at a place that I would enjoy more than we do Imperial. I like the fact that this club has been well managed, well run, fiscally responsible, but it all comes down to the people. And this is the most remarkable group of people that we have encountered over the years. So that's what I'm about here. When we joined, I joined the 18-hole group right away, and pretty soon somebody said, would you help me run a guest day? So I did that, and as you know, the more involved you get, the more involved you get. So I worked guest days, I served on the board. Somebody was president and said, would you be my secretary? By the way, we're going to take a look at the bylaws. So we spent a year, gee, how strange, going through all the bylaws for the 18-hole group. I had the pleasure of then being vice president and then president. And then the 4th year, I served as membership chair, and this is the natural progression for somebody who's an officer of the 18-hole group. In the meantime, I also started working with the membership committee of the club, and that has been an incredibly rewarding experience to meet so many wonderful new people who have the same excitement that we had when we first came here. The other real advantage for me of serving on the membership committee is I have worked with 2 of the most professional people I've ever met, Kathy Coates and Don Sullivan. We have amazing staff here, and it's been fun to get to know them. A few years ago, 08, 09, we were losing members right and left, as were all clubs, because of the recession. And so the membership committee came up with a new category called the trial membership, and it was just that. People could try us out for 3 months. And it seemed to me that if somebody was going to try us out, we were also getting to know them. We wanted to be sure that they could quickly become incorporated. They only had 3 months to find out what we were all about. So we started a mentorship program. And it has been very rewarding, very successful. Well, new couple, new single come in, they're assigned a mentor who has similar interests. Just somebody they can call if they have any questions. Somebody else who helps ease it their way in. So it's been great fun to do that too. My professional background, I graduated with a teaching degree and taught school for several years. I did marketing for a private school in the Milwaukee area. Had a clothing rep business for a number of years. I've spent most of my the last 20 years being, as I've been nicknamed, the professional volunteer. One of the fun events that I've enjoyed, that I would love to do something like that here along these lines. We're working to raise money for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. We brought in 20 touring PGA pros and raised $500,000 each year for a number of years. The 5 years, 6 years I chaired it, we raised over $5 million. it was, again, another way to give back to an organization and involve our love of golf. So I don't know more than that I can enlighten you, except to say, my kids tell me I am hideously organized. They don't mean it as a compliment. So I do have organizational skills. I have some leadership skills. I've watched my husband serve on the board, and I know how much work it is. So we've got a bunch of great people up here. If I am one of them, that would be lovely. And if I'm not, I'll find another way to give back. So thank you very much. And
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Will Rogers said that we're all ignorant, only on different subjects. I'm ignorant about a lot of things. To give you a few examples, I can't do brain surgery, I can't do rocket science, I can't speak French, I can't even fix a leaky faucet. But I think some of the things that I've learned and experienced might be useful to a member of Imperial's board. I earned a BA in economics and an MBA with a concentration in finance from Case Western Reserve University. I'm a chartered financial analyst. I spent 36 years in the investment management business as a portfolio manager, director of research, investment strategist, and chief investment officer. I help manage tens of billions of dollars in pension funds, endowment funds, mutual funds, and high net worth individual accounts. Among the organizations for which I personally managed money were General Motors, the Cleveland Clinic, and Ohio State. You probably heard of that school. There were two high points in my career. One was as president and chief investment officer of the investment management subsidiary at Key Bank. The other as executive vice president and chief investment officer of the private client group at National City Bank, now part of PNC. I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. I commanded a platoon in combat for 13 months. Later, I was executive officer of a 200-man rifle company. Along the way, I learned something about leadership. In my work life, at various times, I had more than 100 portfolio managers and analysts reporting to me. It would be difficult to find a more opinionated and fractious group of people. Each of these people believed that he or she was the next Peter Lynch or Warren Buffett. So I learned a lot about resolving conflicts. I've served on a number of boards and committees for the Heart Association, the Kidney Foundation, a community foundation, for a country club, a yacht club, the Cleveland Athletic Club, for the Cleveland Society of Securities Analysts, for a corporation, for a charter review commission, and for my condo association. I've learned how to work cooperatively and effectively with other people. I was a reporter and editor for my college newspaper, which was a lot of fun. In my investment career, I wrote hundreds and hundreds of reports and articles and gave countless presentations to both large and small groups. I'd like to think that I've learned to speak and write clearly and concisely. I hope you feel that some of what I've learned would be of value in the governance of Imperial Golf Club. My wife Jean and I truly enjoy Imperial Golf Club. We found that the members are friendly and fun. The two golf courses are terrific. The clubhouse, I think, is beautiful. The food is wonderful, particularly the Imperial fried chicken. Does the club face some challenges in the years ahead? Certainly. But I think we have a great club. And I'd like to do my part to help keep Imperial a great club, and if possible, make it even better. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you. Ron Dean.
like to give you some background on myself of why I'm the choice of candidate for your next board. Give you a little family background. My wife, Dr. Henriksen, just retired after 30 years practicing and is enjoying the Naples good life. And she's continuing to practice 2 half days here in the community. I have 4 children, 9 grandchildren, all up in the Illinois area. My educational background is I went to a very small school, private school, 500 boys, St. Mary's College, Winona, Minnesota. I went to the Motorola's Executive Institute where I earned a certificate of management in Houston, Tucson. I also am a graduate of Northwestern's management program, an MBA. I've been involved in various community associations, and I was on the board of my community association back in Illinois, and I'm currently president of our association here in Naples for our building. And one of the things about our association here in the building, in the 7 years I've been on the board and president of it, our costs have increased, and we've limited to 1 to 2% a year, and kept the amenities as good as they were in any other building in the area. I belong to four different country clubs. We currently belong to 2, one in Illinois, and obviously here at Imperial. In Illinois, the club we belong to is a privately held club. It's a one-owner situation. The owner asked me if I would develop an advisory committee to assist him in running the club, and I was on that first advisory committee. I was on the board of another club prior to resigning 4 years ago in Wisconsin, which I was a board member for 6 years, was on the finance committee, golf committee, and grounds committee. So my experience with country clubs has been quite extensive over the years. Excuse me. My past business experience was, I worked for Motorola for a number of years, where my ending situation was I was the liaison between the 7 officers of the company and the finance department. So I have a rather heavy background in finance based on that. From there, I was recruited into healthcare, and I spent the next 30 years in healthcare, and I was the vice president of finance and then the executive vice president of the corporation. And at that point, I took one hospital system and developed into a major network of several hospitals, nursing homes, congregate living, and media care centers. And they were all fiscally managed well. We started out, when I took over there, we had about a $4 million bottom line. When I left, we had a $30 million bottom line. I managed a portfolio with the organization in excess of $300 million, and also managed the pension fund for the operation. I'm a person who likes to listen to what you have to say, and obviously answer your questions immediately if I can, or pass them on. I consider myself a good listener. Some of my major attributes, I think, are I'm very family orientated. I'm honest. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm enthusiastic, and whatever job I take on, I go all out in it. It's not just a part-time position. And if I get the job here as a board member, obviously I bring all the experience that I have with it, and hopefully continue what has gone on here at Imperial over the years, and the improvements that have that have happened here in the last few years. Now, we all live in Naples, and we all hear the statement that we all live in paradise. Well, I think that Imperial is an extension of that paradise. And the things that happen here are the same things that we experience out there in the Naples community. And I hope that I'm your choice for the next board member. Thank you very much.
My name is Gary Druby, and I'm going to dispense with a lot of the family and work background because that's in the bios that you have. One thing I didn't put in my bio that my wife Nancy Nancy's here tonight, and she's also president of the Women's 18-Hole League. I forgot to put that in. I've been here 18 years, and I've served on several committees. First one was about year 2000 when this building was built. It was on the entertainment committee. We went around trying to find entertainment to bring to this venue. We hadn't had that type of venue before. 2001, I joined the Greens Committee. I was on the Greens Committee for 4 years. 2005, I was elected to the board. I was Greens Chairman for 3 years. During that time, we had 2 hurricanes, Hurricane Charlie and Wilma, and we got the club through that mess. Wilma, for example, we lost 400 trees. There was an assessment to put the trees back in place. I think Ed remembers that situation as well. Since that time, I've enjoyed not being on the board. I was a member of the management committee. The management committee considers the structure of the club, how it should be run, personnel issues, what have you. I've also been a member of the most recent ad hoc committee for food and beverage. And you're seeing some of the recommendations of that committee come to fruition now with changes in the menu and the setup. As I said before, I was pretty happy not being on the board, and last August, for some reason, I brought my cell phone with me. I don't usually do that. But I had the cell phone with me, and I think I just made a birdie putt on the 3rd hole, and went to the cart, and the phone was buzzing in the tray, and I picked it up, and it was Sonny McCollum. Sonny said, Tom Wilson's resigned his position on the board. Would you consider taking that slot? There was another 18 to 20 months to fill on that slot. And I said, sure, I'd like to consider that very much. Then we hung up, and I'm not so sure I knew what I did there. But she called back about 1 hole later and said, it was unanimous. The board's picked you to fill that position. I thought, great, what a country. I could be on the board for about almost 2 years and not have to run for election. Well, that only lasted for about a day when Sonny talked to me the next day and said, well, we read the bylaws. You're only appointed till the next annual meeting, then you have to run again after that. So here I am. I've been the Greens Chairman now since August, and you might ask, what have you been doing since that time? Well, one of the things that led me to believe I wanted to come back to the board is that we're looking at the West Course. And a lot of people say, well, the West Course is great. Why do you have to fix the West Course? Well, the information I'm going to share with you doesn't come from me. It comes from U.S. Golf Association. It comes from Golf Course Superintendents Associations. It comes from our own course architect, our own superintendent. And that is, there's a lifetime for the turf of golf courses. It's about 15 years, both the greens and the fairways. So what has to be done during that period that mere sanding and verticutting can't take care of is that you have to tear up that surface, dispose of it, and put a new surface down. And that's basically what we're going to do to the West Course in 2016. The 5th hole needs some advanced work as well because the water table is rising, and we're going to need to raise that green. We'll probably put in a rock wall rather than a wooden wall, and move the green back a little bit to make it more playable. Why a rock wall? Well, we have one here, and those are permanent. The wooden wall we have in the West Course is not permanent. It's about at the end of its lifetime. I know from experience, because when I was on the board before, we almost lost the wooden wall that's on the 13th green at the west, and that was quite a project. We had to search in a hurry for some money to come up to fix that problem. The greens are going to be left pretty much the same except for 5. We're going to core down 6 to 8 inches. We're not going to change things like we did on the East Course, where the East Course had drainage problems, both from the standpoint of underneath drains and the way the water flowed off the greens. So the structure of those greens will change quite a bit, as you all know that have been here for several years. We're not going to change that with the West Course. We're just going to core down and leave the greens pretty much the way they are. How do we know that we're doing a good job? Okay, December 18th, Mike Hendricks, our course superintendent, had 168 golf course superintendents and their assistants from South Florida here in Imperial to play our courses. Mostly they play the East Course. We've been getting comments back that best fairways we've ever played. Your greens are in great shape. They're difficult to putt, but they're in great shape. The current green superintendent at Quail West used to be the green superintendent at Bonita Bay, and he had all 5 courses there. Called Mike about a week ago and said, Mike, I played, during the tournament, and the stories around town about your sanding program are great. Can I come over and see what's going on? So we're getting comments back from the experts in the industry that we're doing something right with our courses. We like to say that the East course is complete, not finished, and it's kind of the wordsmith aspect of it. So when you say complete, you say a guy's complete. Well, if a guy meets the right woman, well, he's complete. If he meets the wrong woman, he's finished. If the right woman catches you with the wrong woman, well, then you're completely finished. I'd like to be able to complete the best course. I'd like to do this most problem.
I don't know, that might be a tough act to follow. I'm Meg Clymer, and I moved to Naples about 3 years ago from Southern California. Most people don't come from the West Coast. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but had most of my career in California, and my mother lives down here, so I've been coming here for 30 years. It seemed like a very natural progression. As a matter of fact, she'll say, I can't believe you know more about this town than I do, and you've only been here 3 years, and I've been here 30. Well, maybe I just like to pay attention to what's going on. I began my career as a buyer in the fashion industry and worked for many different companies doing that, and that afforded me a great chance to travel, as well as one of my passions, which was always understanding the customer that I was held accountable for, in fact, from a sales perspective. My performance was judged on, did I meet sales and profit margins? And it's not all about the frou-frou of, oh, I'll pick this, it's pretty, I'll do that. It really was more about a business than it was the fashion part of it. I really, really enjoyed connecting with the customer and understanding what their needs and desires were. And my passion towards serving that customer was really, really integral in my career. About 15 years ago, I was given the opportunity. One of my largest passions is also being an entrepreneur. A few interesting things along the way. I went to boarding school actually in Connecticut when I was in my teen years, and I was in the first class when the school turned co-ed from all male. Well, that was a pretty fun experience because there were about 60 girls and about 450 guys. And yes, we got away with murder, but it kind of caused me to stand and think about how can I make a difference with things, and how can I take what I'm doing as part of things and really make a better team of things. So that was one of the first things. And 15 years ago, I was given the opportunity to start a new division for an existing retailer. And this was a concept that no one had done before, and it was addressing a consumer need that no one else would touch because it was somewhat taboo, and it was for plus-size young women. And to make a long story short, they hired me and said, you've got to get 6 stores open and a website launched in 4 months, and you have to design and manufacture all the product. And I'm like, okay. So really, I built a small team of people at first, and to cut to the chase, we were 150 stores within about 8 years, doing $180 million in business. So very, very successful. Really gave me a lot more insight into leadership skills. And early on when I was in a management position, I thought, well, you're managing a team. A big understanding came, no, you're leading a team. You're not managing a team. You manage a process, you lead a group of people. So that was very integral. That was comprised of designing merchandise, getting it made, and then I'd be in Asia a lot negotiating with the factories to get it done. I came to Imperial about 3 years ago, and I looked at a couple of golf courses within Naples, and I just felt an immediate bond here. A current member, Fritz Klein, family friend for a long time, said, I think you might really like it there. It's a great group of people, And so I came up for brunch, I played the chorus, I walked into Donald's office and said, okay, I'm joining. He's like, nobody, this is 2011, members are hard to come by, and you're right here, this is great. And from then on, I just kind of dove right in. Sunny recruited me early on to be on the membership committee. I think I was here about 6 or 7 months, and she said, well, why don't you do that? And we need some, young new blood and some new ideas. As a result of that, the membership committee came up with both ideas for music night, which have been a really fun process. If any of you have attended them in the bar for happy hour, great vibes are going on. It's a really good sense of all the community and people of what goes on at the club, as well as an integral part of with Diane Hoagie and Carolyn Musgrave founding the Girlfriends group, which has taken off to wild success. They are now off without me, and it's even more gangbusters than you can imagine. I also work with Nancy on the IWGA 18-hole group and have volunteered on various committees for a bunch of events, and now am chairing the closing event. Additionally, I have, while living in California, I was on the board of directors for my homeowners association, and I've been volunteering at a bunch of the golf groups in town. I'm working on the Ace Classic. I did the LPGA a couple of years in a row as a marshal. And I really just like being involved in the community. Admittedly so, I was a workaholic for my career. I mean, I am single, I've not been married. I was so very, very dedicated to my job that when I decided I was going to retire, I was like, okay, good, now I'm just gonna enjoy life. So that's what I'm doing, and again, in giving back for all those years that I was either on a plane, at a desk, or whatever I was doing, and I was working. So I hope to bring the same level of my passion that I have for everything, a real zest for life, and that I had in the business world, to helping here at Imperial and really taking the club to keeping the momentum of what the club has undergone in the 3 years I've been here, and just moving it up to the next level as we move forward. So, thank you very much.
Well, I guess you can agree this is a pretty strong slate of candidates that we have here. I would like the board of directors that have attended this meeting to please stand up to be recognized.